Stop me if this sounds familiar. Today's students have lower attention spans, lower literacy rates than previous generations, and they bore easily. They don't hesitate to show their apathy. Their generation is characterized by cynicism, uncertainty, and an ability to process information quickly. They focus on diversions and retro interests. No, this is not a critique of the TikTok culture of Gen Z. No, this is not a critique of the YouTube culture of millennials. Believe it or not, this is a critique of Gen X. Hello, I'm Hawkwood. And I wasn't alive yet. The reason Gen X is still called by that Marvel super-ass hero sounding name is because they were the dominant focus group of our capitalistic hell machine one time, and they failed to find a cohesive theme to identify with. The closest title was The Latchkey Generation, named for the students who would return home after school and have to let themselves in with a hidden key because their parents were both at work or divorced. Another was the Baby Buster Generation, described for the drop of fertility rates from their predecessors, the well-known and well-loathed capital B Boomers. But to many in the X generation, there was a simpler and more marketable designation with which to call themselves. As the LA Times would later write in 1991 while looking back at the history of Gen X, much has been made about the generation's lack of a single unifying theme or experience, but its members seem to have one thing in common: music videos. Welcome to the 80s, and welcome to the MTV generation. Ten years before Joffy's Nintendo Nightmare, in the year of 1981, the TV channel Music Television launched onto the visual airwaves. The premise was to provide 24 hours of uninterrupted music videos, beginning appropriately with the Bugles hit "Video Killed the Radio Star." Between various programs, the music videos would be broken up by a host personality called a VJ, or video jockey. It's like how a DJ is a disc jockey. A jockey is somebody who can manipulate something in a skillful way. While it may seem that a VJ's job is to introduce the programming, they actually had a much more important role to play. They were marketing. Each personality was chosen specifically to appeal to one of MTV's target demographics. The first 5 MTV VJs were Mark Goodman, the friendly everyman; Alan Hunter, the jock; Nina Blackwood, the sexy one; Martha Quinn, the girl next door; and JJ Jackson. And that's how you do, fellow kids. A few years later, MTV began airing in New York and LA, and the rest is history. Obviously, because I'm telling you about it. The music landscape had suddenly shifted to television. Local record shops started selling out of albums that weren't even playing on the radio. But 24 hours is a lot of hours to show music videos, so MTV was going to need some new ones. Instead of just American top hits, MTV started showing more and more music videos from UK bands, until eventually sparking what would be known as the Second British Invasion. Remember, this isn't the globalized internet world we're all familiar with. You didn't get to hear things from other countries unless the people in charge wanted you to. But suddenly, thanks to music videos, there were brand new customers in brand new places, and they all wanted something to watch. Channel 4 wanted in. It created a music program of its own, but as we've seen, creating a channel is only step 1. Step 2 is to find your marketable personality. Channel 4 needed a VJ, and not just any VJ. Channel 4 needed the best VJ. The assignment was given to a set of independent music video directors named Morton and Jankel, a married couple who had just written a book about computer graphics and had worked on music videos for bands like the Talking Heads, Elvis Costello, and Rush. It was up to Morton and Jankel to pick the person who would introduce Channel 4's music videos to Generation X. and they knew exactly where to find him. For someone growing up in British punk culture, there were really only two options when dealing with corporations. Either avoid them entirely, or work within the system while giving them the middle finger as often as possible and taking their money. Morton and Jankel lived the latter. What they saw with their assignment wasn't a simple job, but an opportunity to be cynical and subversive at the same time. They saw a chance to make a statement on behalf of a new generation. This defining characteristic would eventually be their downfall, leading to the implosion of their careers and the absolute assassination of the video game film industry. But for now, in this moment in time in 1985, it is the spark that creates their legacy. Channel 4's VJ would be, in literally every metric, fake. I thought, maybe I should go with the whole idea of it being boring. What's the most boring thing I could do to just annoy everybody? And the most boring thing I could think to do, which would really go against the grain of the MTV generation, was just a talking head. A middle-class white man in a suit, talking to them in a really boring way about music videos. Rocky Morton. See, Morton and Jankel took exception to how corporate boardrooms hired young actors to appeal to the young Gen X generation, pretending to be hip and with it. So their VJ would be the opposite, a mockery of the industry while leading the industry. Utilizing their experience with computer graphics, they decided to create the world's first CGI host. Of course, that wasn't exactly possible in 1985, so they faked the hell out of it with makeup and cool lighting. But they faked it really well. What resulted was Max Headroom, a VJ so spectacular they made an origin story film for him before he even aired. Max Headroom was an investigative journalist who got a little too close to discovering the truth about a corporate television studio's misdeeds, and then a lot too close to a parking garage's little hangy-down arm thing. So his brain was uploaded onto some computers so he could reveal the truth to the world and also run a music television show. 28 years later, Eminem would reference him in a music video for Rap God because IRL is crazy sometimes. Throughout the 80s, Max Headroom would prove to be a worldwide sensation, a cyberpunk hero for Generation X, and a subversive, ironic, and anti-capitalistic figurehead, before finally completing his character arc as an unironic sellout. But for the moment, he was funny, he was weird, and he was art. Which brings us back, at last, to 1991. Roland Joffe, in his debt and out of his depth, had a script without an actor and a movie with no director. He needed a miracle in order to create the Super Mario Bros. Movie. He needed a tried and tested captain with a unique and subversive vision to bring his grown-up video game movie to life. Somebody unexpected, with a style all their own. Roland Joffe needed an artist, so just to be safe, he hired two.